Former Dallas Mayor Tom Leppert, thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
It's good to be here.
So you and former Dallas Mayor Ron Kirk wrote an op-ed in the Dallas Morning News, and you're basically saying it's time to leave Dallas City Hall. Talk to me about that. Why?
Sure. I'm glad you read it, first of all. I think, Jack, I probably bring an interesting perspective to this issue. I not only officed there for 4 years, I ran the largest building company in the nation. I'm chairman of the board of the largest building contractor here in this part of the country. So I kind of look at it maybe from a perspective that is a little bit different and maybe a little bit more experienced than some other folks that are commenting on this. It is an old building. It's 50 years old. It was inefficient running as an office building to start with. It has gotten more efficient over the years. In addition to that, it is all of suffering that you would expect of a 50-year-old building. It's got old systems in it that need to be replaced, et cetera, et cetera. That is going to be extremely expensive. As you and I talked about a moment ago, I can tell you that whenever you go into a building that's 50 years old to do major renovations, the costs only go one way, and that's up. Once they start opening those walls, do the drainage, do the leak repairs, those sorts of things, it's going to be more expensive than they think it's going to be. So where you end up is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to kind of bring a building back, but it will never be particularly efficient. It will never be a great office building to run operations or any organization in. And to me, it is incredibly wasteful and almost contemptuous of the taxpayer to think that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. We're not going to get a particularly efficient building or one that is going to be useful to the city, even after all of this work to be done. It just becomes wasteful, to be frank with you. And especially at a time when there is so much office space downtown that can be utilized at a fraction of the cost, it just doesn't make sense to do it.
And so before we get into that, what do you say to those who don't want to see that building, flattened, okay? They say it has historical value and this gives the city a sense of history, and they believe in some cases the city is rushing to judgment. What do you say to that?
Give me your check for $500 million.
You're saying it's just not worth it?
It's not fair to the taxpayers. The taxpayers are the ones that are going to take the burden of that. For somebody to say, I really like the building and I want it to hold, that's simply not fair to the individuals that are going to put $500 million down and not get much out of it. I think in some ways it's disingenuous, in other ways it's selfish. I think you have to look at it as a hard economic decision. And that hard economic decision, I think, has one solution to it. I understand people fall in love with buildings, et cetera, that sort of thing. But let's be realistic. It's a 50-year-old building. It's not a 100-year-old building or a 150-year-old building. Yes, it was done by an architect that I knew well before he passed away.
IMP.
Worked with him on other projects and those sorts of things. But that's not simply a reason to have the building. We've got other IMP buildings in the city. It doesn't make sense to put the taxpayer through that. We need to have something that's much more efficient for our government to work in. It's not that building. And with all the opportunities that are out there, we can do the right thing, have a much more effective organization leading our city, managing our city at a fraction of the cost.
And so obviously you're not suggesting that the city build a new city hall, just use some of the office space that already exists that's vacant.
Absolutely.
Do you have any sites in mind?
Oh, I don't have any sites in mind. I don't think it would be a difficult exercise. I think you would have a number of property owners, developers that would be more than interested in engaging the city in a conversation to take up that much square foot. The other thing is, keep in mind, it's also valuable for downtown. We've got all of this empty space here. Empty space isn't good for anyone there. So by utilizing that space, it's actually going to increase the occupancy rates in the downtown area, which I think will actually help all of downtown.
And so I guess part of the reason that you like the idea of having somebody else be the landlord where if the city is renting space, right? Are you talking about the city purchasing a building, or are you talking about the city renting space?
Where the economics are today, and again, looking at it as a hard business decision, my view would be you rent. I think, again, you will have a very attractive offers that will save the city money. That makes a lot more sense for the taxpayer. And again, I think you're going to have a lot of different options in downtown space. It's also important to note that other cities have moved this way too, both locally and across the country.
Right, you mentioned Fort Worth in the op-ed, and that seems to have gone well for the city.
Absolutely.
And let me ask you, before we continue, when you were mayor, was this talked about? About, trying to, fix these issues at City Hall?
Well, there has been work over time that's been done on it. So in the budgets I did, as well as budget since, you've added money into the building. Now again, I don't think you've fixed the fundamental problems, either of efficiency or some of the challenges, leakage, et cetera, that you're going to have to do over time. But the city has put money into the building over time just to kind of maintain it, so to speak. The problem is, again, at 50 years, given the situations, it's deteriorated much quicker than the city can put money into it to keep it on an even keel.
So let's say the city does that, right? And they put that property up for sale. I would imagine the city's going to have to knock down the building, right, before, as part of any agreement?
I think you'd actually get into the conversations on that. So you might find that it's actually easier to sell it and then somebody else does that to it. Again, I think that becomes an economic question. It's just a matter of how you structure the deal. I think what you are pointing out important, though, Jack, is there's two different decisions to be made. One is what we do with city government in terms of housing, office space, and that sort of thing, and what makes the most sense for the taxpayers. Now, if we decide that it is to move to other places, then it brings in the second decision, and that is, what do you do with that area? Knock it down, sell it, etc. But those are two separate decisions, so let's not confuse the two of them, because you've got some people that object to, well, I don't want the city to do X, Y, or Z with it, so therefore I'm going to be opposed. You can't do that. They are two separate decisions.
Okay, and that's what you would suggest to city leaders?
Yes.
Make this as a separate thing, and with the keeping in mind the most important aspect being the taxpayer.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note, you're working with a piece of land that I think has real value, potentially for a lot of different uses. Clearly one has been aired and identified publicly as one option.
The Dallas Mavericks.
The Dallas Mavericks. And that may be a terrific option. I can make the argument to you today that that would be a great place to put it, because with all the investment that's going in downtown, and it'll be roughly over the next 5 years, plus or minus $10 billion, we have never had that much investment going in downtown. This is an enormous opportunity, if we do it right, to utilize that space much better for the downtown and for the city of Dallas than it is today, simply as a city hall. With all the other investments, we can go in there and really create something that's special downtown, where you could come down through that downtown area where City Hall is, go down Lamar, create special thoroughfares, etc., that really give ourselves a chance to set up a downtown that's going to be exciting, that's vibrant, that people are going to want to come to for the next 30 or 40 years. Yeah, this is a great opportunity.
Well, because the new convention center is going to be that way,
right,
towards
so you
30.
come down the convention center and then go back down Lamar, and in that entire area you can do some special things. Clearly entertainment, all different sorts, and there's a lot of people that are smart at this and they can come up with the ideas, but it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think about something that could come out very special. Dallas College is going to put $1 billion into their campus. Now, if they put $1 billion and we're not actively leading the process, then they'll do the right thing for their campus. But if we engage this conversation up front and talk about it in the context of what do we do downtown, then what Dallas College can do can feed into some of these things that we're talking about. It can feed into the convention center. It can feed in, and again, I hope wherever it is, the Mavericks are downtown, feeds into where the Mavericks' new arena will be, et cetera, those sorts of things. You can do some really special things. So think of $10 billion being spent down there. that can be a real opportunity for everyone in the city. And it's not just the city. I think it's important to understand, if you look across this world, you do not have any vibrant metropolitan areas unless you've got a strong urban core. So while I think this is important for downtown Dallas, it's important for the taxpayers in the city of Dallas, it's also an important decision for all of this region. You want to have a strong downtown. If I live in Plano, if I live in Irving, wherever it may be, I want to have that strong downtown area because I want to have a region that's strong, that's vibrant, that's creating jobs, that's creating opportunities. We need to have a good downtown, and that's important for the people of Dallas, but it's important for the people in this entire region.
Well, when you talk about $10 billion in development, that's a game changer, is it not?
Absolutely. That's why we need to capitalize it on now, though. If we do all of this as kind of independent projects, then we're going to lose the opportunity to really think through what downtown could be. If we do it now, we've got an opportunity to make a special downtown, to utilize this, as I said, for the next 30 to 50 years, really set the stage for something that's very, very different than what we had down there.
And what could that spark? So let's say you've got the convention center going up down there. Let's say whatever this parcel, if the city sells it and private developers go in there, what could that spark even around that area? Because you've seen downtown is really kind of started to fill in various apartments or just different projects. And so talk to me about that.
Well, if you did that, you put more vibrancy in there, more people are going to want to live down there. With more people living down there, more businesses are going to want to be down there. More businesses being down there, you're going to get all the support elements, restaurants, retail, that sort of thing. And one begets the other. And the more activity you can get down there, the more you're going to invite the investment. That's what you really want to leverage off of. You want to compound this opportunity.
And talk to me about timing, because you were just saying before, this really has to be an all-in, not a separate deal. So is timing of the essence here?
I think it is. Personally, I think it is. I think over the next 5 years, this is our opportunity. If it goes beyond that, Dallas College is going to build their campus, we're going to have to build the convention center, et cetera, but we're not going to have the opportunity to think through what downtown could be. So yes, I think there's a window of opportunity, but if we don't really have the right leadership that talks about how to put a downtown in place, how to do these things to make it attractive for people to live down there, even more so today, businesses to be down there, corporate, et cetera, even more than we have today, new support, the restaurants, et cetera, those sorts of things. I think we're going to lose that opportunity. I think you've got a window of probably plus or minus 5 years.
So if you were still mayor, put that cap on for a second, what would you be doing, or what have you suggested to Mayor Eric Johnson or to the city manager? What should everybody be doing?
Sure. Well, the first thing is where we started, Jack, and that is come to resolution on City Hall. As I said, I think it is a pretty clear decision. It is simply not fair to the taxpayers of Dallas to go put hundreds of millions of dollars into this building and still end up with something that's got a lot of warts attached to it. Once you do that, then you open that area up, and then all of a sudden it becomes an opportunity. And I would also throw in kind of that whole area between City Hall and between the library. So I think that's number one. Then number two, I would engage the other investments that are going to take place, the convention center, Dallas College, et cetera, those sorts of things, to be a partnership in stepping back and saying, okay, what can downtown be? And it may take some additional money from the city, it may take additional money from developers, et cetera, those sorts of things. But I think that's going to be cheap money when you think about what could happen over the next 30 or 40 years and the tax base that you could create. We did a park, the Clyde Warren Park, and the amount of revenue that has come out of that in terms of additional tax revenue for the raising of the property values just around that area has been an enormous success. Think about that. Think about what else you could do in terms of parks, in terms of thoroughfares, in terms of walking areas, new retail areas, new entertainment areas, those sorts of things. We've got a lot of people down there already, so it's not like we're starting in the middle of the desert. we've got a base to be able to work off. I just think there's lots of opportunities.
Sounds like a renaissance in the making, what you're saying.
I think it very much could be.
All right, we will leave it there. Former Dallas Mayor Tom Leppert, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Good
You
to
bet.
see you.